Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inside the Birds pregame show. It's week 2, and the NFL schedule makers, man, they had drama on their mind. They had the Eagles open up against their rivals on Thursday night against Dallas, and now week 2 is a Super Bowl rematch. The Eagles out in Kansas City to face the Chiefs. The Eagles are 1-0, Chiefs 0-1, and have never been 0-2 in the Andy Reid Patrick Mahomes era. So obviously the stage is set. I'm Geoff Mosher alongside Adam Caplan, and of course, joining us as always for all season long on the pregame show to break it down is Greg Cosell, and he breaks down more tape than anybody who doesn't work in the NFL, and probably more than some people who do work in the NFL, as Greg watches every single team. You see him on ESPN's NFL Matchup Show. Welcome, gentlemen. We've got a great game to break down, exciting game. And Adam, we'll start with you. Just in general, these are not the same teams that met 7 months ago. Similar, some changes on both sides, some injuries on both sides that we'll get to.
Yeah, look, the Chiefs have rebuilt the left side of their offensive line. They needed to, and they've done that. You mentioned the injuries, which we'll get to. That's going to impact this game. You know, mostly the same defensive players. And the Eagles have one change, obviously, on offense with a new coordinator. Spags is back. He's phenomenal. We know that. Matt Nagy's back. Andy Reid oversee the offense. But we'll get into some of the personnel matchups. And I think there's some really good ones where I think the Eagles will have an advantage, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, Greg, one thing we'll also get into is both of these teams are trying to do a little bit different offensively. The Chiefs have talked about their wanting to get the deep ball back into what they do. That might be complicated by some injuries we'll talk about. And then obviously the Eagles talked about evolving as an offense. And after week 1, you know, obviously it wasn't the most poetic offense, but they did what they needed to do to win.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, both those things, I'm not sure. Week 1, the Chiefs really did not have a vertical passing game at all. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into more detail about the Chiefs passing game because I'm sort of confused by it, particularly with Andy Reid as the head coach. And I think the Eagles, you know, it'll be interesting. It was week 1. Week 1 is always tough to make a judgment about the entire season, obviously. But what we saw from the Eagles week 1 was kind of what they are. And you know, look, we know that A.J. Brown isn't getting one target every week, but, you know, we'll get more into the details of that. But I think they kind of played the way we kind of expect them to play. Now, whether that changes over time, I guess we'll see.
All right, absolutely. Now, again, injuries are going to play a role in this game. Let's start with the Eagles. Adam, we talked about it all week long. If Dallas Goedert can't play, it is a major impact on their offense, even though we have acknowledged they've won plenty of games when Dallas Goedert in the past has missed. But he will not play. He has been ruled out of the game with it's a knee. It's a knee injury.
He didn't practice this week. Yeah, that's not a good sign. So, you know, it's funny. Andrew was telling us, Andrew DeCecco, who writes for us and does the Daily DeCecco, Andrew was telling us that he definitely saw in training camp where Cam Latu, who's changed his number for the second time, or actually second time at least, he showed that he can block a little bit. So we'll see. But the bottom line is, they just don't have a guy that's been developed yet. Cam Latu has never played an NFL game. This is his 3rd year in the NFL, so we'll see what happens. But you know, there was a little bit of a minor good news, Geoff, on Friday. Tanner McKee surprisingly worked.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, coming back from the right thumb. So that's good news. And then the other good news is
sports are all about competition. Every snap, every possession, every clutch moment matters. That same energy is what 1v1 Me brings to video games. Every single day, you can watch and stake on matchups in Madden, NBA 2K, FC, and Call of Duty Search and Destroy. All the games are streamed live. Every match has refs, and payouts are instant. And these aren't just random online lobbies. These are the best players in the scene, pros, streamers, and rivals. With season playoffs and the championship game on the line, every game matters. Over $100 million has already been paid out on the app, and the community is growing fast. If you're a sports fan, a gamer, or just someone who loves having a little extra on the line, 1v1 Me is where you need to be. It's not just about winning, it's about the bragging rights too. Every match has a chat going crazy, and you can back your picks in real time. Download today and use code BIRDS. Your first stake on the app is risk-free. That's code BIRDS for a risk-free first stake.
Landon Dickerson, as we expected, is cleared for the game, but that's not the real story. The issue and the challenge is, will he last through the game with his bad back? I don't like these bad backs with offensive linemen, Jeff, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. Trust me. Neither does Jeff Stoutland or anybody else involved with the Eagles. It's he's tough as nails. He usually does play, but you're right to bring up, will he last the entire game against a very good Chiefs interior, a guy like Chris Jones too. So we'll keep an eye on that. Staying with the running game, Adam, though, Will Shipley did not practice. Our friend and coworker Derek Gunn of Inside the Birds reported earlier in the week it's a broken rib. They're saying it's an oblique. Either way, he didn't practice. He's out. Cameron Williams, a backup OT, also out. So good news is, yes, Dickerson will play. Jilix Hunt, who was on the injury report with a hip, full participant, expected to play, and maybe we'll see what happens with Tanner McKee. That is good news that he's back on the field. Let's talk about the Chiefs' injuries. I've watched the play many times. If those who haven't seen it, there was a crossing route a mesh route between Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy, and boy, did Worthy look like he was on the opposite side of it. He looked like the defender because he took an elbow from Kelce and he wound up suffering a dislocated shoulder, they're calling it. Correct, Adam?
Yeah, and he's not expected to play. He did get some work on Thursday or Friday, but he's just not cleared yet for contact. So he is out. And Tyquan Thornton was the guy, and we'll get into what Greg saw on tape, but Tyquan Thornton, I saw it at Patriots camp.
Mm-hmm.
One of the issues with him was weight. He needs to put weight on. He just never a factor. Hurt a lot, by the way, with the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Spent at least 2 times on injured reserve. So they are really light at receiver position. They just don't have very much depth.
Yep.
And Thornton can run, though. That's why he was a second-round pick.
Yep, and we will get into that with Greg and yourself and myself of what their offense might look like without it, because it's not just that they don't have Xavier Worthy. They also don't have Rashee Rice for this game and 4 more as he serves a 6-game suspension. Adam, any other injuries on the Chiefs side that are worth noting?
No, that's pretty much it. They had a bunch of players listed, but they're all been cleared to play. So, but obviously the big one is at the receiver position. And yeah, it's I know Andy is the master at creating space and getting guys open. But man, Greg, I don't know about you, but I wonder about this Chiefs passing game, which you've told us could be a little bit compressed.
Yeah, I'm a little confused, to be honest. I mean, the foundation of their passing game, and really goes back the last couple of years, quite frankly, but it was evident again in their week 1 matchup against the Chargers. It's all quick rhythm, short timing throws. Now, Mahomes will take a few deep shots, but there was really no significant intermediate passing game, either outside or between the numbers. And I'm kind of surprised by that. But again, I'm not there. I don't know how they coach it, but they don't really have that. And they really haven't had that to any meaningful degree over the last couple of years. Keep in mind, and this is just a statement of fact, okay? Well, before I say that, one point I want to make is Mahomes' running ability has really become a significant part of their offense, and he's really good at it. His feel for spatial awareness is as good as we've probably ever seen, and he just has a great sense of when to get out of the pocket, and that's really a meaningful part of their offense. But the point I was going to make was the last 2 years, they've only averaged 22 points a game, and that's like 15th or 16th in the NFL. Whereas their defense has been top 5 in the NFL in each of the last 2 years in points allowed. So in some ways, their offense has not really been consistent, but the ability of Mahomes to make special plays, which is non-Perel, is kind of bails them out. If those things don't happen, look, I'm sure a lot of people were surprised in the week 1 matchup when they marched right down. Mahomes hit that special play, that special Mahomes play to Brown for 49 yards that put him in the red zone. I guarantee everybody watching, unfortunately I was sleeping, but I guarantee everybody watching probably felt they're winning this game now.
Yeah.
Because they're down in the red zone. It's Mahomes, and it obviously did not happen. But and to show you the lack of depth at wide receiver, the 4th down play was a fade ball to Jarvis Brownlee. So, it's just they've been kind of an odd really good team the last couple of years, so it's difficult for someone like me who just sits and grinds on tape.
How much do you think, Greg, and then Adam, I'll get your opinion too, the lack of, it's very easy to say their scoring is down, their offense is down, it must be a wide receiver quarterback thing, but they also don't have a running back in Isaiah Pacheco that has been the template that Andy Reid has used in the past, which is a Brian Westbrook type or a LaShawn.
Right.
Somebody who can catch the ball. When he got there, he had Jamal Charles at the end, but it was still able to do those things. Is that, do you think, making their offense a little bit more telltale and difficult?
Well, the only way I can answer that, and I think that's a fair statement, Jeff, by the way, is a lot of people believe that if your offense is sort of struggling, okay, to sustain, I'm not talking about the big playability of Mahomes, which we know is great, that the way teams get their offense back on track is not by throwing the ball, but by running the ball. And that's why I think your point's valid. They don't really have that run game where you can say, okay, we're not really doing what we want offensively. Let's stabilize it by lining up, running our staple ground game that we feel we can run against anybody. Usually good running teams just feel like, hey, we can line up and run the ball. We have our 3 staple running plays. We're going to line up. They can put 20 people out there on defense. We're going to gain 7 yards.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have that. So your point's right. So it's been a very odd offense, but the magic of Mahomes very often bails them out. And you're almost surprised when it doesn't, as was, I'm sure, the case in that opener when it didn't happen.
Right. And Adam, that was supposed to be like Charles Edwards-Helaire was supposed to be that guy, and it just never panned out for them.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah, Clyde Edwards.
Yeah.
Yes, Clyde Edwards. Yeah. CEH out of LSU.
Right.
And because of that, they've sort of been, I feel like a couple of years ago when they at least had McKinnon, if I'm not mistaken.
He was good in the pass game.
Third down player for them, and they
Right. They're not a run game guy in the sense that you're going to line up and he's not a hammer in the run game.
But he was phenomenal in the red zone. Jerick McKinnon. Yeah, good point. Yep.
Yeah. It just feels like their run game and their run game versatility has been an issue. Let's also talk about. I mean, listen, you want to throw the ball deep, but you don't have Rashee Rice, who's not necessarily the deepest threat, but you don't have. And you don't have Worthy in this game. I have no idea where they go. Where do they go for offense from here? Consistent offense.
Well, that is sort of the point I was trying to make. So it becomes a defense that ideally holds the game together. And in the week 1 matchup, that was uncharacteristic of the Chiefs defense. There were some things that probably will get worked out because Spags has been doing it for a long time. And it's, a few people, I think Justin Reed might be a bigger loss than people think because, he was an incredibly smart, savvy player. So Jaden Hicks is becoming the starter now. And for the first time, he played in the dime last year. So it's just different. But if the defense holds, they're in the games, and then Mahomes makes enough plays because that's who he is. But if they have to keep scoring and scoring, again, I'm not saying they can't. Look, when people hear comments like this, they think all these things are absolutes. They're not absolutes. Nothing is an absolute. So could they theoretically come out against the Eagles, who are playing with some different personnel on defense that are still trying to get acclimated and put up 30? Sure, they could. The quarterback's pretty good. Sure, they could. But, just watching them over these last couple of years, it really hasn't been sort of a consistent pass game. It's been plays, individual plays.
Random. I think it's actually, it's almost like it's random.
Yeah.
You can't quite figure it out. And also the other thing I want to touch on before we switch this other side of the football, their offensive line. Okay. Juwan Taylor, the reason why he's still on the team is because of his contract. All his cash is fully guaranteed. It's around $20 million. So they couldn't cut him. Okay. He's a declining player. I know, Jeff, you had some information on Sumatea, the left guard, and Greg could obviously chime in. Who's Kingsley Sumatea, who's a kid from BYU, correct?
Yeah, the kid from BYU. They
moved from tackle to guard, right?
Right.
So
I was going to say I watched about 70% of the pass snaps from week 1 against the Chargers, and I thought both Sumatea and Josh Simmons, the left tackle, and I wanted to bring this up with Greg too.
Yeah.
Struggled on some stuff that was sort of basic under center play action. They gave up some pressures, 3-man rush. Simmons got beat to the
And
inside and forced. It wasn't. I do think that there were times you saw Jesse Minter try to throw some stuff at them, but there was also some basic stuff that I thought that they struggled with. Greg, your impression?
Well, and I think that's one reason I'm certain that week one, everything was, well, not everything, a good part of their pass game, a higher percentage was quick rhythm timing throws, because then the ball gets out. Because as Adam probably remembers from sitting with myself and Ron Jaworski for years, if you go 3-step drop timing, the ball's out in 1.5, 1.6 seconds. And even if your left guard and left tackle maybe struggle with the block, it's a non-factor. The ball's out. Yeah. So, that could be one very valid reason why they did a lot of that, as those guys get a feel. Sua Matea was a dominant run blocker in college, but pass protection was where he needed work. And most people believed he would be a guard in the NFL, which is where he's playing. And Simmons is incredibly gifted in terms of athletic movement. And I think he's going to be a really good player. But, the Chargers attack that side with a lot of different things. The Eagles don't do that kind of stuff usually. Now, again, you never know how a game is going to play out, what Vic Fangio may have in mind. But normally the Eagles are not overly creative with their rush. They rush 4. They're not a high percentage stunt team. So, they kind of line up and rush the quarterback. Yeah.
And then, so what you'll have is, we'll see how the edge rush rotation is. We'll see if Zadarius Smith gets on. But obviously, against the Cowboys, you had a combination of Jalix Hunt and Josh Uche lined up over left tackle for the most part. And then I believe it was a Jomo and Davis over the left guard at times. So I feel like with Jalen Carter back, especially, this will be a really big area for the Eagles to capitalize. And if you're looking at it from a Chiefs perspective, I think you're feeling happier that this game is, well, no, from the Eagles perspective, you're happy that this game is early before Simmons and Sua Matea figure some things out, because I think that that's a better response than having a left guard playing left tackle and then a third stringer playing left guard like the Super Bowl. But clearly these guys have some work to do, and having to face the Eagles week 2 is probably not great for them.
And one point you just made, I'd love to respond to about Jalen Carter playing. Almost always, I would say, I don't have the number right in front of me, but I would bet 90% of the time last year he lined up at left defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. You wonder if he'll get some snaps at right defensive tackle against Sua Matea. Especially since Ajomo did not really have a good game last week. And who knows? This is just something I thought of right when you said it, that could Carter get some snaps against Sua Matea, because Carter's obviously great, and we'll see. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but just something to possibly look for.
Would that be, real quick, would that be disadvantageous? Well, I'm wondering if they did that, if then the automatic double team would be center and left guard on Jalen Carter, and then Ojomo has to go up against
Trey Smith,
right guard.
So they may not do that. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. All right. It'll be interesting to see. Adam, what you were going to mention something there?
Yeah. They had a number of quarterback pressures, the Chargers. Marlon Tuipulotu's brother, Tuli, had a great game. I know we hate the word blueprint, but they obviously found something that worked. And they have 2 elite players on the interior of their offensive line, but this is a beatable offensive line, and they did not play well last week.
Yeah, no, they did not. So it'll be very interesting to see as Andy Reid tries to figure out how to get a more consistent, rhythmic offense going and get the ball deep, how much his offensive line will allow Patrick Mahomes to do that. On the flip side, when you look at the Eagles defense, the red circle will be drawn around Adoree Jackson. And I wonder exactly how Andy will try to figure out a way to get some of his, whether it's Marquise Brown, whether it's Thornton, to try to get him isolated on Adoree Jackson if he can, Greg.
I mean, look, teams, they're going to go after Adoree Jackson. I think that's obvious. How they do it and with who they do it with, I guess that remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Tyquan Thornton. He did attempt a few deep balls to Thornton in this game, and he hit a big time throw to him late in the first half to set up a field goal, which was 38 yards. The Chargers were in cover 1 robber, which is a coverage the Eagles play rarely, but they have played it. You mentioned about, I think it was Adam that just said, I can't remember. I think it was Adam who just said about, was there any kind of blueprint? You have to remember the Chargers are different from the Eagles on defense. Like, for instance, I made a note watching that tape that the Chargers on 3rd and 2 to 6 yards to go for a first down, they played 3-2-6 dime. They kept their 2 linebackers on the field. They used Henley as a spy on Mahomes, and they played man coverage behind it. Okay, that's what they did on 3rd and 2 to 6. The Eagles are not going to do that. That's not really part of the Vic Fangio approach. So, every team tries to do things, gets to the same objective, but they do it differently. The Eagles are not going to do it that way. Yep. So that doesn't, and keep in mind, I think we have to go back and use the Super Bowl as a blueprint for how the Eagles thought about it. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to do exactly the same thing. But here was the Eagles' plan in the Super Bowl, okay? It was a 4-man pass rush. They did not blitz one time. They did not rush 5 one time.
Right.
In their quarter structure of 4 across, which they lined up in almost on every single snap, they had their 2 outside corners. It was Mitchell at right corner, Slay at left corner, playing man-to-man. Now, will they do that with Jackson? Unknown. But this is what they did. And then they squeezed everything in the middle of the field because based on their film study, they determined that Mahomes does not really work outside the numbers unless he's taking a deep shot. And everything about their pass game or the high percentage is in the middle of the field. So they squeezed the middle in multiple ways. That was their game plan approach, clearly worked. Now, the Chiefs know this too. So, will it be similar? Will they try to do it in different ways? Will they take a totally different approach? These are things week 2 at the beginning of a season. You just don't know.
Hey, Philly fans, game day is stressful enough. Parking, traffic, long lines. We've all been there. But when it comes to your cannabis, Camden Apothecary makes it easy. This is the dispensary for sports fans, just minutes outside of Philly with plenty of free parking. You'll be in and out fast, no hassle, no waiting, and they don't just care about convenience. Camden Apothecary is all about the guest experience. Their staff makes sure you feel taken care of every time you walk in. Plus, they carry only the best quality cannabis at the fairest prices. So whether you're stocking up for the tailgate, the watch party, or celebrating a big win, you're getting the good stuff without overpaying. They even show love to the community with specials for fans, students, service members, and healthcare pros. Camden Apothecary, top quality cannabis, great prices, and an experience made for Philly fans 21 and up. 100%. Good stuff. All right. So that's a look at the Eagles defense against the offense and, of course, against the Chiefs offense. And, of course, this will be the debut this game for Jalen Carter, assuming he doesn't get kicked out before the game starts. I think the Eagles are hoping that.
One would hope he's learned.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you're the Chiefs, when you're in the warm-ups pregame, you might be walking in his direction, trying to stir him up. We've seen that happen before.
Oh, for sure.
Get under a guy's skin and see what happens. So let's take a look. Let's spin it around. Let's talk about the Eagles offense against this Chiefs defense. But I wanted to start by sort of having Greg expand on what looked like not a great effort, or not a great production from the Chiefs defense against the Chargers. I mean, they made Justin Herbert look like the quarterback everybody's been waiting for Herbert.
Well, I think Justin Herbert's basically done that his whole career. It's just people thinking that, in the playoffs it hasn't been great, but he's kind of done that kind of thing most of his career. But, it was interesting. One of the things that really stood out in that game, and it was the success that they had with play action, which is not really a big deal for the Eagles, especially from under center, it's a totally different offense than they're facing this week, because what the Chargers are, because you have to remember it's Harbaugh and Greg Roman, is they play with a fullback. Scott Matlock, they play with a fullback. So, they line up in 21 personnel quite a bit. That's sort of foundational to what they do. Okay, so you're not getting that from the Eagles. But one of the things that stood out was the play action pass game. Herbert was 9 for 11 for 169 yards in the play action pass game, and 5 for 6 for 91 yards from conventional play action where he was under center. Now, that's not what the Eagles are going to do. But what was interesting in that game is the total inability of the Chiefs to generate any pressure from their 4-man D-line pass rush. They could not generate any pressure whatsoever. And there were, for some reason, way too many voids in their zone coverage concepts. You'd have to believe, since neither one of those things has really been common to Spagnuolo over the last number of years, that those things would get cleaned up. You'd have to believe that. Maybe they don't, but you'd have to believe that those things will get cleaned up to some degree.
Was it mostly a 4-man pressure scheme by Spags against that, or did he try to cook some?
Well, they rushed 5 or more, including 4 snaps of 0, Jeff, on 15 of Herbert's 41 dropbacks, and Herbert ate up the pressure. He was 10 for 13 for 165 and a touchdown. Now, there were 2 sacks, but for the most part, he ate it up. They also showed some sim pressure concepts, so the audience understands what that means. Is it's a 4-man pass rush, but your 4th rusher is either a linebacker or a defensive back, and they drop out a defensive lineman. But they ate up the Chiefs' pressure concepts in that game, which is something you also don't see that often. So it was overall the things we expect from the Chiefs in a good way did not happen that way in the first game. But there's a strong history of success doing those things. So, there's no answer to the question until they play the game. We're just presenting, the way it is.
By the way, real quick on Herbert ran the ball a lot. Were they mostly designed some scrambles? What were your thoughts on kind of the way that Greg Roman used Herbert in the run game, if he did?
Did he run a lot? I know he had some big runs at key
7.
moments.
He actually had 7 rushers, which seems to me a little bit more.
Yeah, I think they were more. Obviously, the last one was interesting because Chris Jones just made a mistake, by going inside, and he shouldn't have, and that opened the edge for Herbert, and he just ran 19 yards, and that wrapped up the game. Okay. I'm trying to think, just think back on some of the Herbert, were they scrambles? I don't remember that. My guess is that they were probably scrambles because they don't use him. I mean, that 19-yarder was to wrap up the game, obviously, but they don't normally use him as a runner, in that sense, where there are designed runs for Herbert.
Yeah, I mean, the guy had plantar fasciitis last year. He had an ankle injury. He's had a shoulder injury. They probably want to be judicious in how they run him. But yeah, that Chris Jones inside pressure that he shouldn't. It reminded me of the conversations we had about the Cowboys, who did the same thing week 1 against Jalen Hurts and provided him an outside lane. And I wonder going into this game if Spagnuolo will look at the Super Bowl and say, maybe I shouldn't try to devote everything to taking away Saquon because Jalen could beat me through the air, or say, let's see if he can do it twice in a row, Adam.
Well, I think – I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah. I was going to say a couple things. Hurts crushed them on the ground and in the air. Obviously, they had the couple of the shot plays.
Yep.
The big one was to Devontae Smith. But he also crushed them in the run game. And the thing is, and we talked about this last week, Hurts looks more explosive. This is the second year that I think, Jeff, we talked about this in 23. He did not look quite as explosive. He looked really good last week running the football. And Spags was asked about it. You're playing Hurts. It was interesting. He knows what's coming because, Jeff, as I turn it back to you, last week, okay, they threw the ball once downfield and it was phenomenal. Hurts made a great throw, great catch by Dotson. You saw what the Super Bowl brought to you. If you stop Barkley, bombs away. Quite frankly, let's be honest. The Chiefs secondary is not great at corner, other than McDuffie, who's not the biggest guy in the world. You with Smith and Brown, okay, and Dotson is now a part of it. Their plan, even if Barkley's getting off to a good start, you got to have shot plays in this game.
I think the feeling from the Chiefs is that Jalen made 3 great throws in the Super Bowl. Don't forget, he threw for 220 and he hit the shot play. So. And that counts, obviously. But, it came at a moment in the game when they had just gotten the ball back on a turnover. They were in shot play territory, which is between the 40s. And he hit it and made a great throw, just like he made a great throw to Dotson. But let's assume the game was a little different and they didn't hit a shot play. It would have been a normal Eagles passing game where he throws for 170, which is kind of become kind of normal. So they felt that he hit 3 big throws, and the biggest one, believe it or not, was not necessarily the touchdown to Smith, even though it kind of put the game away when it happened. But the one that they really felt was the biggest was 3rd and 7 to A.J. Brown on the sideline, which was a back shoulder throw, which Jalen Hurts couldn't have handed it to him any better. It was an unbelievably great throw, and because McDuffie had great coverage, but the throw was so good. So they felt that, hey, he made 3, and I can't remember the other throw that they thought was great, but they thought he made 3 great throws. I don't think that they're going to dramatically change how they play. I could be wrong, but the killer was scrambles, and it often is with Jalen. And that, just like we talked about Mahomes, that has to be factored in. Those scrambles when you play the Eagles, that's why the Chiefs, for instance, with Mahomes, why they spied him. You have to take into account Jalen's ability on 3rd and, let's say, 3rd and 5 to scramble. It's a big, big deal. You can't just act like, oh no, it's a big deal. And he makes a lot of sort of morale-breaking, back-breaking plays when he scrambles on 3rd down.
Geoff, if you ever watch Josh Allen, right? Greg just brought it up before I did. The back-breaking scrambles. I know that the Bills do design a decent amount of them, but when you think you've got it defended, I've talked to defensive coaches. It's so humiliating because you got what you thought you'd get, and somehow he's too elusive, or someone has a coverage bust, or you didn't follow him in like you were taught, or someone goes upfield, which we've talked about. I just can't imagine. Hurts last week was just ridiculous, and Greg talked about it on Inside the Tape. We're not criticizing Matt Eberflus, but we're trying to figure out what were you guys trying to do, because Hurts beat it.
Right. And I guarantee you the Eagles will see an entirely different game plan. It was 100% zone, I believe, that Eberflus played in the season opener, Greg. I think you had mentioned that in Inside the Tape that he played literally maybe every snap. If it wasn't 100% zone, it was very that.
But I mean, it was they played high percentage zone, as I recall.
Yeah. So that's not necessarily what they're going to see.
No,
against Spagnuolo, who's going to mix it up, but he's going to send more pressure. He's going to try to make Hurts think pre and post snap.
Yeah, so this will be a different deal. I mean, Spags will play man. I mean, it's not again. Maybe when you play Hurts, there are some situations you're not as comfortable playing man coverage, but it's not as if he's not going to play man. The point your point is correct. The Cowboys didn't play any snaps of cover 1.
Right.
That won't happen in this game, I don't believe.
So let's discuss the lack of Dallas Goedert. It's very easy, and I'm sure a lot of people will listen to this and leave a comment in the YouTube commenter section and say, why are you guys even discussing this? Every time Dallas missed 8 games last year. I think the Eagles were 7-1 without him. They ran the ball fine, but it's not just – it's the culmination. You don't have your fullback. You're going to try to play this Cameron Latu a little bit there, maybe Kylan Granson. You don't have Johnny Wilson to be a good blocker out of your 11 personnel, which I believe the Eagles had the highest EPA per run out of 11 personnel last year. So Johnny Wilson played a role in that. You've got a left guard who is starting but is banged up. You've got a center who didn't exactly play great against the Cowboys. So to me, it's the totality of it all. And I do think if the Eagles struggle to run the ball against the Chiefs, and they may not, and it'll be moot if they don't, but if they do, then it's a sign potentially for 2 straight weeks that, all right, maybe the rushing offense is going to need some help here, and Dallas Goedert is not that easily replaceable because of his value as a blocker and as a pass catcher, Adam.
Yeah, and I want to ask Greg on that, Geoff. Cameron Latu went to Alabama as an edge rusher. He got moved to second year to tight end. His numbers were not great in college, but he went in the 3rd round. Greg, do you remember even watching tape of Cam Latu?
I did, and I'm going to pull it up because
nice. There you go.
I did. So he was in the 2023 draft, correct?
Correct. He's never played in an NFL game.
I'm pretty sure I watched him, but I remember liking him. For what he is. Let's see, Cameron Latu.
By the way, he is on just for people listening, he's on the practice squad for the Eagles, so he'd have to be elevated to be able to play in the game on Sunday. But to your point, Adam, he has switched his number from 87 to, I think, 39, which is, an indication that you're more of a fullback than a tight end. And the coaches openly talked about his ability to play that kind of a role.
The thing is, though, Greg had told us that he had heard, or I don't know who he spoke with, but Greg, you told us last year that Van Sumeren might have the best hands on the team. He's a really good athlete.
Yep.
So Cam Latu, what do you got if in your notes that you
Well,
found?
it's funny because I kind of liked him coming out. I mean, I knew what he was. I said Latu will never likely be a truly dynamic receiving threat as a number one tight end, but there was more there than his Alabama tape showed, and I believe that could come out at the next level. Now, obviously, somebody thought that he was a third-round pick.
Yeah.
That's not a throwaway pick.
No, right.
I said that he was a solid tight end prospect with strong efficiencies both as a run blocker and pass receiver. That's what I thought. He was asked to do a lot at Alabama, and it began with its location versatility within the formation, lining up in multiple spots, in addition to being deployed as the main motion receiver in the offense. He was featured primarily as a run blocker, but had a meaningful role in the passing game. So, don't forget, he was there with Jahmyr Gibbs. So he ran blocked. I mean, he run blocked a lot. It wasn't, he's one of those guys that lined up attached to the tackle, and he was a blocker. So, if he's really good at it, first of all, I'm guarantee he's better than Calcaterra. So, I'm not saying he's going to sit here and play 30 snaps, but, you could see him in that role.
There you go, Jeff. We've got our answer. They got somebody who can block. They had 7 tight ends in training camp, okay?
Yeah.
And now they're without Goddard. We know Calcaterra is limited as a blocker, and we're being nice. Latu, who's now, he is now with his 3rd number with the Eagles. So they gave him a little bit of guaranteed money, by the way. I know they would later release him, but
I'm kind of, again, everything is team specific, and I think he got injured his first year, and and that probably messed him up. But he was a 3rd-round pick. He's not a throwaway pick, and he was not a throwaway prospect. It's not like a 6th or 7th round pick where okay, he got cut. I mean, he was a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah,
and I thought that was a valid spot for him based on his college tape.
Well, I mean, I think the chances are pretty good that he might get out there because of
because Granson's not a blocker either.
Right. Granson is not a blocker. Adam, you've always said you could always throw an extra offensive lineman onto the field if you're really trying to establish the run as well. And so we'll see. Maybe Matt Pryor makes a little bit of a cameo there as the extra offensive lineman. If they really just feel like they have to, pound this run and get their run game going. I wonder how much newcomer Tank Bigsby will get a look in this offense and what he brings to it. Greg, he's not somebody who catches the ball a whole lot. So you have A.J. Dillon, and now you have Tank Bigsby.
I mean, again, just one quick point before Bigsby. I'm still waiting for the game, and Adam made a really good point a little bit ago about the corners for the Chiefs. I'm waiting for the game where the Eagles come out throwing. I really am. I thought, week 1, I thought it would happen, but week 1, maybe you're not ready to do that. Hurts didn't play in the preseason. I'm waiting for that game because, they do have 2 really good wideouts. If Dotson can be Dotson, he was a 1st-round pick on merit. Pretty much everybody thought he was a 1st-round pick. You know that, Jeff. He was at Penn State, and he was very good. So, I'm waiting for that to happen. I think it could be this week. We'll see. But to getting back to Bigsby, another player I really liked coming out of Auburn. I think he's a better back than A.J. Dillon. To me, that's not even a comparison. But again, he just got there. I don't know. Is he active this week, Adam? I don't know. What's the deal?
He's on the 53, but we have
they had him returning kicks, covering kicks, and here's a guy. Last year, I mean, I know talking to the Jaguars last year, he had a great preseason, good training camp, pretty solid first half because they got a little bit down on ETN. He struggled last season. He had a great week 1 last week, but. So they started to have a timeshare, and it just didn't quite work out like they had hoped in the second half. But Greg's right. Guy, you don't become, what was he, a 3rd-round pick?
Yeah.
Trent Baalke, I think. What's that?
Another one, just like Latu.
Another 3rd-round pick. It's crazy with the Eagles. They have a fascination with.
He might have been, if memory, not that this means anything, there's a lot of guys like this. He may have been, if memory serves me correctly, the number 1 rated running back coming out of high school in the country. He may have been.
Where's he from? Other than Auburn. Do you know?
I think he's either from Georgia or Alabama.
Okay, cool.
Interesting. Well, it'll be, I mean, he's a between the tackles runner, Greg, correct? So he fits with the Eagles.
But he's got a little juice to him. I mean, he's not a burner, but he's not just a grinder. He's got a little juice to him.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, to answer your question, or to expand on your comment, you keep waiting for the game where the Eagles come out throwing. I think A.J. Brown is in your corner. I think he's also waiting for the day that the Eagles come out throwing, and he wouldn't mind if the ball went to him. We've seen this before, whether it's him or Devontae, they get like 0-1 target, and then the next week it's like the ball can't stop coming at him.
Right.
So I would expect a pretty big and concerted effort, big game and concerted effort to get the ball to A.J. Brown right from the start of this game. You guys,
and there's ways to do it. That doesn't mean you drop back 7 yards and throw it 40 yards down the field. I mean, there's so many ways. You can run RPOs. You can, and A.J. Brown is as good a slant and glance receiver as there is in the league. Mm-hmm. You have active linebackers that are going to be really reactive to the Hurts, and Bolton and Tranquil, both really smart players, so there's ways to do this without just, hey, let's drop back and toss it all over the yard.
Yeah,
I'm not suggesting that's the way the pass game would look, but there's many ways to get into a pass game and have it be effective.
Hey, fall is planting season. Did you know that many plants and trees actually do better when planted this time of the year? But you got to know where to start, and that's why I love fastgrowingtrees.com. Doesn't matter if you live in the sunny South or if the air's getting a little chilly where you are, the plant experts can help you find the perfect fit for your space. They've got everything your yard needs: fruit trees, privacy trees, shrubs, flowering trees, so much more. And Fast Growing Trees makes it so easy for you to have your dream yard because you can order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door. If you're like me, you're tired of spending way too much money on landscaping. And if you walk into one of those nurseries and you look at all the stuff they have, you have no idea where to begin. That's why you need fastgrowingtrees.com. Doesn't matter about the size of your yard. They got over 6,000 plants to fit any space, and a 14-point quality checklist ensures you will get the best quality plants possible. This fall, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code BIRDS at checkout. 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code BIRDS at checkout. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use BIRDS to save today. The offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Check out the link below or in the show notes and support the show. Hey, you know that one guy in the group chat who hit a 5-leg parlay week 1 and he wouldn't shut up about it for the rest of the season? Sounds like Caplan, right? Yeah, it could be him. It could be you, and we would all want to be you. MyBookie makes it stupid easy to get in on the action, whether it's college ball, NFL, super contest, and survivor pools, all the spreads, player props, and in-game lines that you could want all under one roof. What more could you want than that? If you're new to MyBookie, use our code, THEBIRDS, THEBIRDS, THEBIRDS. Use the code, and any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered. Make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your bet back bonus token. There is no better time to jump in right now. No better place to play. Football is back. Let's make some money with MyBookie. We have analyzed the Eagles offense versus the Chiefs defense. We've analyzed the Chiefs defense versus the Eagles offense. Now we do what we do best. We predict.
I totally forgot about this week, and I didn't even think about this.
Wow, you didn't put like a good hard 5 minutes into this?
I totally forgot that we have to pick a player of the game and the score. My mind went blank.
I'll do you a favor. And I'll start with Adam. Adam, okay. Who's going to win the game and who's going to be the game MVP?
First of all, it's going to be really warm in this game. Holy smokes. It's going to be in the low 90s. Can you believe that?
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
A little midsummer Kansas City humidity.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. This can't be right. No, the weather.com app is never wrong. Yeah. So I like the Eagles 27-24.
Wow.
All right. And why are they going to win that game? Who's going to be the main player?
Because they're going to score 3 more points than the Eagles. No, I think that's why.
I believe the way they're going to win is throwing the football downfield. It's not the amount of attempts; it's the shot plays.
Right.
What an unreal throw! Hurts had to Dotson last week. Greg's right; they didn't throw the ball a lot against the Chiefs, but when they did downfield, They had great success. We could talk all we want about that like they felt they should have stopped it, but they didn't. But guess what? Their corners aren't any better. They signed Fulton, who's backing up, who's an inconsistent player. Watson should not be starting. Jalen Watson is not a starting quality player. He's a seventh round. He should be a backup. I'm stunned that they have not addressed that position. I'm throwing the football.
All right.
You feel very strongly about that, I see.
I do. I just feel like that it's – I know Spags is great. I'm not taking anything away from him. But the way – and you saw the tape. The Chargers had some success throwing the football.
They had a lot of success throwing the football.
Yeah. Adam, who's your MVP?
I'm going to go with number 11, A.J. Brown.
That
would make a lot of sense. All right, Greg. Adam gave a nice long-winded answer.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to think about this.
I feel like that this is just a really hard game. Look, people are going to look at the Super Bowl and assume that, the Eagles are just better than the Chiefs. And, look, it's week 2. Theoretically, anything could happen. I mean, it's one of those. The Chiefs have been pretty good over the last number of years. The quarterback's pretty good. Andy Reid's been doing this a long time. There's just a part of me that thinks they're going to come back. And they lost week 1. They're at home. It's their true home opener. I don't even know who the home team was in Brazil. It doesn't matter. The Chiefs were not at Arrowhead. I think the crowd's going to be nuts. I just think that they're going to play well. And I think it's going to be a really intense game. There's a part of me that just thinks the Chiefs are winning this game. And it's going to be like a 27-26 kind of game. It's just going to be one of those games. And that the Chiefs are going to come out on top. It could be the Eagles, but I'm going to pick the Chiefs. And, I just have to pick Mahomes. He's had so much success in his career. And he didn't have a bad game against the Chargers, but it wasn't like a special game, And I just think that he's, particularly coming off that Super Bowl where, he was bad. I mean, there's no way. And he admitted that even in the press conference after the game. He pretty much admitted, I was bad. It happens. It's the NFL. Yep. So I'm going to pick Mahomes.
All right. So Chiefs win. All right. I'm with you, Greg, because I can feel like the way you presented that. I feel like the Eagles are the better team. They have the better roster. They may win more games than the Chiefs this year, but I do feel like the Super Bowl made people forget that the Chiefs were 15-1 last year. Like they were not a bad team.
And by the way, had been in a few Super Bowls prior to that.
Yes, too.
Yeah, but they're not the same team, guys.
No, I know,
but they it's funny, Adam. And again, but even the year before when they won the Super Bowl, people said, "Well, they're not the same team," and they won the Super Bowl. Right. There's something. Again.
I know what you get. There's something to the coaching staff. A lot of the same players. I get it. Go ahead.
I'm admitting I think the Eagles are the better team, the better roster, but that doesn't always mean you win any given Sunday. And I just feel like Greg said, the Chiefs are going to come home, and I have a feeling it's going to be a big game for Chris Jones for them against the Eagles O-line that struggled a little.
That's fair. That's fair.
Good point.
Yeah.
So I could see a couple of sacks, forced fumbles, things like that. So I picked the Chiefs to win as well. By the way, the Eagles, I believe last I checked, were 1.5-point favorites, which just shows you like there's no clear favorite for this game. Yep. Obviously, it's good for the Eagles to be a favorite on the road against the Chiefs, but I picked the Chiefs to win 26-24 with Chris Jones as the game.
I mean, I think we all agree, and I hope people understand. We do this, we have a good time with it, but it's not like, if people think, oh, you didn't know what you were talking about. You picked the Chiefs and the Eagles won. I mean, that's not what this is really about.
Right.
And me, and you see my notes, and other people will as well now, which is wonderful. But, I could give you 5 reasons why each team could win, and they all could happen, or 3 of them can happen, or, these games are so hard to truly pick, and then you pick a score and we have fun with it.
That's why we love it, because no one really knows. It's great.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So that's going to do it for this week 2 Eagles Inside the Birds pregame show. For Greg Cosell and Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Make sure you're keeping it here on the Inside the Birds platform for all your great Eagles contact leading up to the game, the day of the game, and then after the game. And as always, we thank you for watching and flying with us inside the Birds.